JB here, May 30th, 2024. Hope everyone's having a great morning. 8:45 here, going to be on for about 5-10 minutes. Talk really quick about the markets, PCE data tomorrow. That should be exciting. Talk a little bit about Dell earnings and some of the names that reported after the close yesterday. But first, take a look at the SPY. 525, 524.50, 525 was that spot that was talking about support. Held that yesterday. Then we had a gap below that overnight. And then this morning, it looks like we're pushing above that on the lower revision on GDP numbers. I don't know if that's the exact cause of the spike from 523 or so to 524.75 here in the SPY, but it has to be something that came out at 8:30. So uh, I put well, didn't put the watch list out yet. Well, actually, it's posted. I just haven't shared it. But would love to see that close above the 525 handle. Until that happens, I remain cautious, and I think the longer we stay under 525, 524.50, the larger the probability that we're going to get down to 518 or so on the SPY. Rising rates, right? So that's been the big theme the last two sessions. Yields have been rising, so we're getting into that kind of situation. And then I think there's so much talk around this AI and NVIDIA, and is this the top, and how much spending is going into AI? Who's going to be the first to stop the spending? Who, the infrastructure, right? And I think it's on Market Watch. There's Josh Brown, and I don't want to go into rants around him, but he was on the Reform Broker. He was saying that it's like a carousel, and all the big names are on the carousel spending money on AI, and you don't want to be the first one off the carousel, right? Because they're all feeding each other. It was kind of a good imagery and what have you, but I mean, these comparisons and stuff, it's like good clickbait. It makes for a great narrative and story, but I mean, everybody was talking about the cloud back in the day, Amazon Web Services. Everybody thought Amazon was dead, and Amazon comes and does AWS, and that was the big part of their business. And everybody says, "Oh, it's subsidizing their money losing shipping business." So my point is that there's always these rationales that can be made, these narratives that paint the picture that, oh, is this the top? Is this? It's just stick to fundamentals, stick to charts, stick to the things that you can, the simple things, and then use those kind of as just some input to help you make some decisions. That's it. So, all right, rant on that. That's over. So I'm watching that 525 area. If that doesn't hold, I'll probably look for some more put hedges today. HPQ reported earnings after the close yesterday. It wasn't a monster beat and raise, but it was a beat. And then their guidance, they raised the midline and the bottom line of their revenue and EPS guidance. And then they talked about the second half of 2024, which is going to see a huge surge in demand, or at least that's what they said. They think 10% of their shipments are going to be from AI computers, and then they don't even see the start of the commercial side of things. And they say it takes time for the commercial side because you need to get approvals. The companies don't just go out and just buy. If you're a personal person, if you're an individual consumer, you just go out and say, I need to refresh my computer. As a corporate level, there needs to be approvals and research and purchase orders, whatever you want to, whatever that all comes down to. So I think you look at HPQ, and I posted on FinTwit this morning. To me, it's like playing. It's going to be like a ketchup, and I use the ketchup bottle as just to kind of explain it. But back when Dell was 60-70 bucks, analysts were still around that range, and then all of a sudden they posted a great beat and raise, and then started talking about their backlog, and then the stock rallied, and then analysts started to play catch up, and they're still playing catch up. I mean, they're just recently they start raising their price targets into the 180s. The stock was at 115 a month ago. So you're saying all of a sudden this, and you start looking at the valuations of Dell, and you look at the valuations of HPQ. I don't even know what HPQ closed at. But Dell just crossed $100 billion last week or the week before. It's a $130 billion company, and you're saying analysts have been wrong to the tune of $40 billion in valuation just in a matter of 30 days. And you take a look at HPQ, and HPQ is a $30 billion company. It does $53 billion in revenues. The issue with Dell, HPQ, is that their revenues have been on the decline. So I'm not saying it's an IBM story, but their rate of decline in revenues has got to the point where it's eventually going to turn into growth in the next couple of quarters. They're a fundamental story, earnings. They have a dividend, stock buyback. Their cash position versus debt is in a better position than Dell. So I think if there's any hint of, and this quarter kind of is the hint of, hey, we're on the cusp of some tailwinds. I think it trades. I think it's going to trade 40 bucks plus in the summer, and then it might get some FOMO similar to what happened with Dell. And I'm not saying it's going to trade up at 181 bucks, but maybe it's a double from here. Maybe it's a $70 stock in the next 6 to 12 months. So don't be surprised if you see me continue to talk and rant about HPQ. Just a good story. And the other side is they have their printer business, which has been on the decline, but it looks like they're at I wouldn't call it an inflection point, but a point where their year-over-year comparisons are lower. So eventually it's going to go from being declines to being positive growth. And I think once that all gets set up, the market's already going to have priced that in. So anyway, I think HPQ is over 35 today. I'm going to look for some later dated strikes to play for move over 40 into the summer and beyond. So that's HPQ. Dell reports after the close. Putting on watch list is probably the most watched earnings for Dell of all time, right? I don't think that as many people are going to watch has watched Dell earnings as they're going to watch after the close today. Not only that, there's not a lot of names reporting after the close. I think Ulta, Costco. So Dell is probably going to be the most talked about name after the close, which is remarkable coming from a company that was pretty much, a value boring computer maker, right? That's pretty much what they were. So will be interesting to watch. Premiums are nuts. I think 210 plus on a beat and raise, 160 or so on a miss, or even inline numbers is probably going to have a huge beat and raise just to keep where it is now. If it dips, it'll be a great buying opportunity because this is not going away. And the huge backlog that, I mean, it might be a $6-7 billion backlog. There might be like jaw dropping numbers on their backlog, and I think that will just spark the stock. But it's tough on a risk reward base. I'm not going to pay an insane amount for a strike that could be cut in half just on the earnings. It's just not the type of risk reward I like to. I'm going to like to trade on that one, and that's why I looked at HPQ as more of a sympathy play. Ternspharmaceuticals reports they're participating in the conference today. I think it's a fireside chat, and I think it's a virtual fireside chat at the UBS Obesity Therapeutics Day. So that's at 1:00 today. And then they also announced another investor conference June 5th. I think another fireside chat with Jeffries. So just good stuff. Take a look at the stock. I was mentioning on the rant yesterday afternoon, some weird spikes. It's like either some fund is coming in or someone who's short the stock is covering all the way up to 675 at the close, despite the market weakness. I would not be surprised to see this start to break over $7. Put on the watch list. Consolidation since the start of May between 550 and 650. Finally broke out of that yesterday. Hopefully the continuation, because it's had a history of these fake outs. So hopefully that trend continues today. Finally breaks over $7, and I think it's off to the races. Great story. Not going to talk too much about CAVAgroup. Had the calls in April. I think I had the May 80s, locked those in for some nice profits, and then I kind of took it off my radar because the multiples on the name, it's very hard to justify its valuation. But then its earnings report was a great beat and raise, very bullish commentary, and then the stock was selling off. And I was watching in the pre-market, and then it's at 74, and I'm like, oh, if this thing goes red to green, it's going to really take off. Sure enough, so it goes red to green, tests all-time highs, closes right near all-time highs. I went and got I was actually looking at the 86s. I think they were 40 cents. I couldn't get fills, and I said, let me just get the 90 strikes, because if it goes, it's not going to matter if I get the 86s, 87s, 88s. They're all going to pay nicely. Got the 90s, closed them all out. I wouldn't say definitely, nothing's guaranteed, but I think it's a name that could trade into the hundreds in the summer. So we'll continue to have that one on watch. C3 AI reported earnings after the close yesterday. Best at estimates, stock soared all the way to 27.48, but it's a divisive name. There's still analysts who are negative. So you have Morgan Stanley, who has they raised their price target to 23 from 21 and kept an underweight rating. And then you have other analysts who raised their price targets so into the 30s. I think there's one that's a $40 price target. If it holds 26, you got the huge short interest. Let's see what the updated. I think it was 30 something. Let's see. 32% short interest. So you have that short interest there. And I, kept talking about it over the last couple of weeks, what it did last earnings, all the way up, ran up to $38 or so, and then just sold off on no news or no catalyst. At some point, this is the bottom. It's finally going to take off. I don't know if this is it, but I'll be watching. The funny thing is, even on the move here, a lot of the calls are probably going to be at the red at the open. So that's kind of disappointing. Last but not least is the put hedges. So I talked about it already, and I talked about it yesterday. Just if the SPY stays under that 325, excuse me, 525, 524.50 handle, I'll continue to look for more put hedges. I got some Broadcoms yesterday, and it's only going to take a 2% downward move or 1.5% or so on Broadcom for my puts to pay. I'll look to close some of those off to cover costs today, depending on where it goes, and hold the rest. Other names I'm looking at, so MDB reports after the close today, so that'll be important. But because of that, the premiums are expensive. But I'll be looking at ZS, Snow, maybe ServiceNow. Some of the names I will just sell off just because the broader market's selling off. So that's kind of it. I'm trying to think of some other things here. Some great, Salesforce just getting demolished today. That's down to 220, 227. I mean, I don't know what other names are going to fall in sympathy with that one, but that was a crazy move. And then this morning, Burlington, one of those names I used to trade over the last year or so, a nice beat and raise, and the stock is up 17% now, 235. That one, I'm not gonna. I'll be watching it. Don't be surprised if I get some lottos here. I mean, does it go to 245, 250? Let's see what the analyst tells. Outperform. Yeah, maybe it's 245. So I got to see what the premiums look like. But that a nice one, kind of following the trend of ANF yesterday, right? So that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. We got 34 minutes to the open. Rock and roll.